Greetings, this is Gachiko John speaking, and first off, Merry Christmas. And before we start, like, I'd like to apologize first for the terrible setting. I've been caught in quite an unfavorable predicament, and if you can't already tell, my voice isn't really in the best condition, so I'm also going to apologize for that. But with that out of the way, yeah, let's start. Today, I'd like to talk about the problems with Hololive now. This is my opinion on the year 2025. And yes, because I mentioned the year, I'll be making this again on 2026, same day on Christmas Day. Now, why should you listen to me or even spend an ounce of your attention to me, maybe asking? Well, as someone who's been watching Hololive for not almost, for more than half shit. Well, as someone who's been watching a whole life for more than half a decade, I think my words or statements hold at least some weight to them, or at least some degree of truth. So, I've been observing for 5 plus years. So, yeah, that's my credentials, and why you should listen. Even just for 4 more minutes, maybe. Okay, today I'll be discussing 8 different problems. I'll be splitting these problems into 2 different sections. Section number 1, 4 problems, with problem number 1 being talents not knowing or when to chill out. Problem number 2, new gen fans, going in tandem with problem number 3, degeneracy being normalized. And problem number 4, cover getting lazy or getting too busy. And section number 2, also 4 problems, with problem number 1 being overly parasocial fans. Problem number 2, lowly or filthy methods. Problem number 3, company's internal issues. And problem number 4, company versus the talent's directions. And those will be the 2 sections for this discussion. I'll be time-stamping every problem for every section. So if you'd like to skip to those, you could just, click on the bottom, bar and pick the section that you want to go through. Okay, starting off with section 1, problem number 1. The talents not knowing how or when to chill out or relax or take a break. I don't know about you, but this is pretty self-explanatory. I'm quite literally talking about the talents not knowing when to take a break. I think it's pretty obvious who these talents are, but if you ask me, I think it's every talent in Hololive not knowing when to chill the fuck out. But for the examples that I'll be talking about, we'll start off with Kazama Iroha. If you ask me, as a fan, as a gachikoi, I think she has a really nice voice. And over the years that I've listened to her, that is no longer just a personal statement, that is a fact. She has a really nice voice. But that nice voice is also a double-edged sword. Because of how much she uses her voice a lot, she participates in events, she makes her songs, and she makes her part in those company projects or opportunities. And if you ask me, I don't think these talents are really the kind of people that will let opportunities slip through their fingers when they're finally given it. And because of how much she uses her voice, for a short period of time she was unable to speak. She literally had to stream silently, or did she just mute the mic? But she was practically unable to speak. Next up, Kanata. If you haven't seen or haven't watched or haven't read the graduation letter, she practically pointed out that she has that Meniere condition or Maniere. I'm not really sure how to explain it, and again, I'm not a doctor. But it's practically a condition where the internal organs in her ear deteriorates. Yes, it's a degenerative condition. And she's already pointed out that she already had this condition even before joining Hololive, and one of her ears were already not working and malfunctioning even before she joined Hololive. But she also pointed out that the moment that she joined Hololive and the more she participated in the music industry, that the speed of how fast her ears were deteriorating was definitely speeding up. Shit, did I just use speed in the same sentence twice? Shit, I'm sorry. But the amount of how much she participated in music definitely made it worse. This all could have been avoided if she just took a break more, rested more, or if her managers just told her to rest more or forced her to rest, like what phobic managers did back in the day. Next and last example of problem number 1 is Hako's Bells. And similarly to Iroha, she has a nice voice, she is well known for her songs, and she makes her songs and streams a lot, and that ended up with her being unable to speak, just like Iroha. Like, I don't think it really takes a genius to figure out that they're overworking themselves. And the reason why I say this is a problem is because if this keeps on going, they'll end up destroying themselves and they'll just burn themselves out. And when they burn themselves out, they just, it's just a downhill at that point. So yeah, that's problem number 1. And if you ask me, I think problem number 1 could just be fixed if they just rested more. If they just learned how to take a break and stop being such workaholics. If their managers just forced them to take a break or told them to maybe cut down on the workload, maybe, somehow, perhaps, find a way to let their bodies and minds rest, even just for a moment. Okay, section number 1 and problem number 2 and 3. Problem number 2, new gen fans. Problem number 3, degeneracy being normalized. Now, these two problems go along in tandem. These are very intertwined and are directly connected with each other. Now, you may be asking, isn't more fans equals a good thing? And to that, I say yes, it is a good thing. But the problem with this new wave of fans, this new generation of fans, the new gen fans, is that they're degenerates. And I know, wow, that's shocking, coming from a degenerate myself. But the difference with the old generation of fans as a whole compared to this new generation is that we old fans actually wanted to change. We went to the whole damn cycle of the Holo fan cycle. We went from, it's like the butterfly cycle, but for the Hololive fan instead. We started off from the cocoon, being degenerates, being pieces of shit, and then we ended up getting into Hololive, getting invested to our Oshis and loving our Oshis instead of ourselves, and just wanting to be more for them, wanting to be better people for our Oshis and just make them proud, and maybe one day make them proud enough to call us their fans. Be better people for our Oshis. That's a statement that this new generation of fans really cannot fucking understand. Maybe it's because of all this nonchalant culture being spread around. They don't care enough. They just want to keep on being degenerates forever. And the reason why I say that this is a problem is because the talents inside Hololive actually care. Even if it's just a minority, it sure is one loud ass minority. And because they're so loud, their voices can be heard by the talents, our Oshis, your Oshis. And the problem with that is that your Oshis actually care. And instead of just focusing more on the majority and focusing on building themselves up and becoming better talents and improving their quality, no. Because of this loud ass damn minority being so fucking annoying and whining about every minuscule problem, the talents cater to their degenerate-like behavior. And they just end up pulling themselves down, all to accommodate for this damn minority. Section number 1, problem number 4. Okay, Hololive getting too lazy or too busy. What am I talking about, you may be asking? Well, I'm not really talking about anything specific, but maybe this is an old problem or a new problem, I'm not really sure. But maybe it's just Hololive being sloppy with, shoving everything under the rug, or maybe the curtains are finally starting to be torn apart, and they're finally being exposed, or something. Or maybe Hololive is just getting too busy to give the amount of care for their, talents that they once did. Or maybe there are too many talents now to accommodate for, that they cannot keep up, even though they have hundreds and hundreds of fucking staffs in their fucking company. Maybe that's the case, maybe not. But I do think that it's either Cover getting lazy or Cover getting too busy that Hololive is in its state now. Also, I like to use an example of, HoloFest, the recent one, where they practically used AI generated backgrounds. Like, what the fuck, man? You're a multi-billion-dollar company that's had that has, like, I don't know, hundreds and hundreds of staffs on top of each other, and like almost 100 talents, and yet you couldn't even make a fucking background. Like, seriously, what is happening in cover? And then another example would be Crony. I think you already know, but like, Crony has already mentioned in the past that when she asked for perms, it took like fucking months or weeks to get that permission for the, for the game that she wanted to play. And like, how busy could you be that you couldn't even accommodate for this talent? Like, I know that's a small problem, but like, getting permissions for a game is a crucial part of their fucking streaming side of their, creation, their content, their jobs. It's a crucial part of their job, to get permission for the game, because they're in a company. The company should be held accountable for such a job, not the talent. Next up is like Louis, Takane Louis, and like, she hasn't really talked about it explicitly, so I'm not really sure if this should be pointed out, but like, Fubuki has also talked about it, so like, maybe it's fine. But it basically goes along the story of, Fubuki and Louis went out to eat together. Maybe it was recently, but Louis was practically crying in front of Fubuki because Cover couldn't, properly track or manage her music. I'm not really sure what it was about. It was basically her music record being taken care of, and yet Hololive wasn't able to properly record that. I mean, come on. Cover is literally the most staffed company in the entire VTubing scene. They pride themselves in their song and dance, and then their music is an essential part, an integral part of their company, and yet they couldn't even take care of that. Like, come on. I don't think it takes a genius to figure out that that's stupid. Yeah, Hololive definitely fucked up there. Big time. And that's all the problems for section 1. Moving on to the last section, section number 2, problem number 1. And that will be overly parasocial fans. Now, what am I talking about when I say overly parasocial fans? I'm talking about the fans that are too far gone. Those fans that think they're above everyone else. Those fans that they think that they're, on the same level as their Oshi. They're on the same level of their, favorite talent. That they could one-on-one them and maybe get a chance to shoot their shot. But let me tell you, my guy, they're not letting you shoot. You're not gonna shoot your shot, man. They're not gonna let you play. Like, come on. No matter how much money you throw at your Oshi, they're never going to let you anywhere near them. Because these parasocial fans need to understand this very, very important concept of fucking distance. The relationship between fan and talent, viewer and entertainer. That's all there is to it. And these people that don't understand it are these people that can be called overly parasocial fans. Like the fan heads, and like those people, those JP bros that freaked out when they heard a male voice on Toa's stream. Or that time when Holo Assault. I'm not going to elaborate any further. Holo Assault, just Holo Assault. Or, Connor VA. Or literally any male collab where these overly parasocial fans would just freak out because they just cannot stand the idea of their favorite Oshi, their favorite talent being in the same room or breathing the same air as a dick bender or a sausage user or a male or a guy or whatever they wish to use to indicate these people. Like, honestly, these people are too far gone, or at least way too much of a hassle to save. Section 2, problem number 2. Lowly or filthy methods. What am I talking about, you may be asking? Well, I'm specifically talking about Yuri bait, yaoi bait, GFE bait, girlfriend experience bait, and eti bait, skebe bait, and like the whole rundown, you know? These shitty methods just make your skin crawl. And you may be asking, why am I saying that this is a problem if it garners up a crowd? Well, I'm not going to point it out again, but not all numbers are good numbers. Not all change is good change. With good comes with bad, and like, you know, for every action there's an equal and opposite reaction. Sure, it brings good because it garners up a crowd and brings more numbers, but like those numbers are filthy numbers, and these, you know, fans, air quote fans, are the kinds of people that would turn their backs on their Oshis the moment that they stop doing the fucking bit. Like, seriously, these people are the most shallow people that could exist in the entire, universe, and they would still call themselves fans. Like, as a Gachikoi, as a fan for almost half a decade, for more than 5 years, I can say that these people are bullshitting themselves, and they actually believe themselves, which is just sad. And that's exactly why I think that it's a problem. And the biggest reason as to why I think it's a problem is because someone who genuinely supports his Oshis because they're, entertaining. I see their talent, I see their skill, I see them as good people. I see what it is in them that these people can't see, and it just makes me sad that they have to resort to such shitty methods and lowly methods. And like, don't you feel any guilt for those who actually support you for who you are? Even without these shitty methods, we would still support you with all we have. Like, come on. It just makes me sad as a fan, man. Like, you're way past that, you're above that. And yet, you still cater to such lowly methods. As a fan, I'd want you to be better. I'm mad, I'm pissed for their sake. And like, if they want to do that, it's their choice, it's their decision. And I guess I'd support them, but not out of, I wouldn't be glad to do so. Okay, section 2, problem number 3. Company's internal issues. Now, I'm not really saying anything specific, but I'm just here to point out to us fans and to you fellow fans that, we should put Hololive under a microscope more when it comes to their flaws. Because Hololive isn't a perfect company, and it definitely, sure, isn't, something that should be glazed or forever be praised. Because Hololive does fuck up, and it does fuck up quite a lot. So we should hold them accountable for their mishaps, for their mistakes, because it's for the company's sake. If we don't point out what the company did wrong, they will never try to fix that problem. So like, people like to glaze Yago like he's some fucking messiah, but no, he ain't your fucking father, he ain't your uncle, he ain't your friend, he definitely ain't your best friend. So no, Iago is the CEO of CoverCorp, CEO of Hololive. He is the top guy of the company. He is the boss. And yet, these people don't understand that he is willing to make those cold-hearted decisions if he had to. And I'm here to point out that we need to do so. We need to see them for who they really are. And we shouldn't try to put them on a pedestal, because the more you think you know, the more you think you see, the less you actually know. And who knows? They say that they're transparent, and you really shouldn't trust that, because who knows? Maybe that's just them sweeping everything under the rug, like what happened with Hitomi Chris or that missing member of Neporabo, the Big Five. They're really good at hiding everything under the rug, or maybe that's just them under the curtains behind the scenes. We should think more as fans and hold them accountable for what they do. And for the last problem, finally, the company versus talent's directions. Now, what are these directions, you may be asking? Direction number 1, the idol direction, JP idol direction. Why do I say idol instead of idol normally? It's because they are a Japanese company and they go off the concept of a Japanese idol, singing a song and directly connected to their image and their persona and the personality that they sell to their audience. That is the JP idol. That is Idol. That is Yago's dream. And the talents direction. It is all encompassing. It encompasses the idol as well, but it encompasses the entirety of entertainment as a whole and content creation. So that is the talents direction. But the reason why I say this is a problem is because of all the graduations that point out this difference in direction, where the company is fucking up, man. Over these past 2 years, where Hololive has been so over fixated and so overly focused on the idol dream, Yago's dream, they've lost 10 talents, 10 members, and like shit. I don't think it really takes a genius to figure out that, Yago, you're being too hyper fixated on his dream of an idol company to see that the talents are not being accommodated for, when he could just easily go the entertainer's route and still be idol, but you know get the best of both sides and still do what the talents want to do and accommodate for their dreams as well. But if you ask me, I think Yago does know this, and this may be me grasping at straws and making speculations, but I think the company is not ready for such a shift yet, because all these years they've been focused on becoming this idol company like AKB48, and instead they got AK47 with fucking comedians instead of idols. But I think Yago did achieve this. I think Yago did achieve his dream, but he's not ready to give up yet, or he's not ready to put it down yet. But all these years that he's been catering to this idol company idea and molding the company to be more idol-like, it's become unable, or at least not ready yet, to shift to a wider and a bigger field, a bigger horizon, So I think that's why I say that it's a problem. I think, yeah, it would be better if they just moved to a better horizon, a wider horizon, instead of just the idle direction. Yeah, I think that would be the best solution. And yeah, that's all I wanted to say. That's all the problems that I wanted to discuss. And yeah, thank you for listening. But before I end this, discussion, I'd like to point out, I'm not putting down Hololive. I'm not talking shit on Hololive. I'm not stepping down on my Oshis. I'm not putting them down. I'm not kicking the company while it's down on its knees. No, I'm holding them accountable to change. It's because I've been watching Hololive and been supporting Hololive and been invested to my Oshis so much for more than half a decade that I want them to change. I want what's best for my Oshis. They give me a reason to live. So why wouldn't I want what's best for them? And I think what's best for them is for them to change for the better and improve. Change. Hold them accountable for change. And the first step to change is to know that there is still room for growth and you can still change. The first step to change is knowing that you can still change, and the first step to change is knowing where to actually change. And I think it's pretty fucking obvious that this list of change is still pretty fucking huge. There's a lot of room to grow. And yeah, I wanted to hold them accountable for that. And I'm not expecting them to see this, or anyone to see this, actually. But I just wanted to say so, So yeah. Hopefully, next year wouldn't be so bad. Hopefully, because for the past 2 years, it has been the worst years to be fans. And I just want a break from all this fucking just depressed shit, man. So hopefully next year would be better. Hopefully next year would be different. And yeah, that's all I wanted to say. Have a good night, have a Merry Christmas, and this was your depressed friend. This is Gachiko John, signing out.